Cage fight.
Someone's going to steal the Declaration of Independence. We'll steal the Declaration of Independence.
The treasure of the Knights Templar is the treasure of all treasures.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
How's this admiring a cage? Fits you pretty good.
Welcome back to Late Night Cage Fight. We're one of the many Nicolas Cage podcasts alive in the Cageverse, hoping to experience each and every one of his amazing films. Guys, we have an impossible effort ahead of us to watch all of these movies and try to understand how this Oscar-winning actor went from playing bitching bod James Dean roles to chainsawing satanic biker gangs to death. But we're going to do it. And I thank you for being with me this evening. Tonight is a very special podcast stream. Tonight we are pitting Cage's 1987 film Moonstruck with his 1989 Twilight prequel, Vampire's Kiss. Cagefighters, before we discuss these movies, let me just ask you one question. Do you believe in life after love?
I don't know. Do you?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a song, by the way.
Do you remember that song that you spoke to me in words when we were kids, and for years, I thought it was something you just made up at the moment?
I do. Yeah.
And by years, I mean like we were probably 9 whenever you said this to me, and this was in like I was 22 by the time I realized that this was a song.
All the time, I would say to Steve, "Did you know that when it snows, my eyes become larger than life?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it all the time. And Steve thought I was some kind of poet genius.
I was living in Sylvania, and I just happened to be pulling in, and I remember it came on the radio, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. Yeah, Seal's Kissed by a Rose. Yeah, I used to love that song from the Batman soundtrack.
I didn't know.
And
was that movie actually made, or was that song made for that movie?
see, I don't know. When I was a kid and I would watch a movie trailer and hear this awesome song, usually the song you would hear at the end of the credits or something, I always thought that that song was made for that movie. You know what I mean?
Have you seen the music video?
Yeah, right. Well, the music, yeah. It's, they're on the roof, right? They're in Gotham.
Yeah, but they like actually filmed like Gotham stuff with Seal. Like, they don't do that anymore. Like, that is some 90s ass 90s music. Do you remember, I think it was Mission Impossible 1 or 2, maybe 2, Metallica had a song. Really good song, but I'm just like, wow, Metallica watched this movie. They saw the movie, right? Before anybody else, and then wrote this badass song that they put in the movie. That's so cool. I think the video, too. Of course, they tied it in. They downloaded it from LimeWire.
Oh, I said Napster and Metallica in the same sentence. I'm about to get in trouble.
Napster Video.
Napster Video.
They should do that. That's how you win the streaming war. Napster comes back as a streaming service.
Yeah.
Dude.
Get out of here, Spotify, Apple Music.
All right, we are discussing 2 very strong films here tonight.
Yeah.
We've got Moonstruck, a very well-made romantic comedy, versus Vampire's Kiss, a wonderfully bad, now cult classic black comedy. As always, yes, these are older movies. You should watch them before listening because we are going to spoil them completely. And I do hate to say that both of these movies really don't deserve to be spoiled. You really should watch them.
That's actually true.
Especially Vampire's Kiss. If you love...
Good luck finding a copy of Vampire's Kiss on Blu-ray. I tried, if you're a collector.
It's on Prime, though.
Yeah, it's probably more worth your time and money to do it that way.
But I just thought by now, I mean, it's 2020. Vampire's Kiss should be in the Criterion Collection, you would think.
HBO Max, Nicolas Cage is coming to you.
All right, some updates before we get into the movies. First off, I just want to say Kevin hasn't been around, as you noticed. I know we said he's sick. He's really not that sick. The truth is, Kevin has started a new business venture, and we're all very proud of him. He is still in our home state of Ohio, hardworking man, and he is not going to have the time right now to be a permanent member of the podcast. I am desperately trying to reel him in for some cameos in our upcoming episodes. Maybe even he could be a Cage Lord. I'm not sure, but anyway, Kevin, we wish you all the best, and hopefully we get to see you around again soon in the podcast. And I am keeping him in our network, in our group chat, unless you guys vote to kick him out. Then I can be that guy, and we can, cancel the contract and make it a big deal. Yeah. So hopefully we get Kevin watching more Nic Cage movies soon in the future.
Especially Boy in Blue, too.
Boy in Blue. That might have been it, really. Like, I'm kind of skeptical he actually has this new job. I think he watched Boy in Blue and he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
I don't know that we can actually get rid of Kevin because he did get us our new sponsor. The sponsor is actually cow diapers.
Cow diapers?
That's it. Yeah, they're pretty straightforward company. But if you want to keep your cow from just shitting all over everything that you love and all of your favorite clothes, cow diapers.
Nice. Thank you, Cow Diapers, for supporting Late Night Nic Cage Fight. I personally use a cow diaper all the time on all of my cows that I buy from cows.com. And they love them. They do a lot for the smell. And check out Cow Diapers. Is that what I was supposed to say?
I think so.
Okay. Was it supposed to be 2 minutes or I can't remember how long we were supposed to do the ad for.
I think it was $10 per word.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But my mother loves them.
Steve, is there any Nic Cage news to report? What's he into these days?
I don't know. We're not that close anymore.
Oh.
He doesn't answer your calls.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we started doing the podcast, and even though he asked me repeatedly not to delve into his past, I did it anyways, and so now he's not really talking to me anymore.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't get about friends. Somebody says they're your friend, and it's friends forever, but then you ask them to do something, or you ask them not to do something, and they do it anyway.
I'm sorry. If you want me to send you a mold casting of myself, I will do it for you. Just stop asking.
Yeah.
It's too big to ship.
All right, let's talk about some movies tonight, gentlemen. We watched Moonstruck. I discovered that there were two alternative titles for the film. The first one was actually Wonder Woman Moonstrike. Originally, Cher was going to play Wonder Woman opposite the villainous Bread Boy, played by Nicolas Cage, a one-handed bread-slicing villain who was out to kill his own brother and mother. They scrapped that idea pretty quickly, and they went then for Sex in the City for old people. The test audiences weren't cool with that. The producers said, okay, let's just cut the superhero stuff, make it more Italian, add some Dean Martin music, and we'll call it Moonstruck.
I did hear that for HBO Max, because there's been such an outcry that they are doing the Norman Jewison cut of Moonstruck. They've allocated $5 billion for reshoots, and both Cage and Cher are reprising their roles in the additional scenes. So
Are they going to do any kind of digital post-production editing to make them look younger, or are they just going to...
Oh, they're sparing no expense. But you have to be an HBO Max member.
I see. Only way to see it.
Yeah, and they're actually cutting it up into episodes instead of a feature length because this is how it was originally envisioned.
I myself I got so tired with TV specifically. I'm watching a show, episode drops. I have to wait next week for the next episode. Just give me the whole series at once. I can sit down, watch it, and then next week I forget about it. And I watch another series. And I do that until I'm dead. And I think that is the American dream. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you all a brief rundown of Moonstruck right after tonight's Nic List. Nic Cage plays an unhappy baker who can't afford a cyborg hand to replace the one he accidentally cut off while slicing bread. In the throes of depression, he asks his coworker Chrissy to, quote, "Bring me the big knife so I can cut my throat."
Bring me the big knife, I'm gonna cut my throat.
After a night of fiery passion, Cher feels bad about sleeping with her fiancé's younger brother, Nic Cage. So Cage's character tries to apologize and asks for just one more date. A night out at the opera with the love of his life. After that, he'll never bother her ever again. When they meet at the opera, he tries to kiss her. "No, I'm not here for that. I'm here for the opera, just like you said." So after the opera, he takes her to the bar. "I want to go home," she tells him. Of course, Nic Cage then walks her home. Sorry, I mean to his apartment, and says, "I want you in my bed. I don't care if I burn in hell. I don't care if you burn in hell. I don't care why you come. No, that's not what I mean. Look, I want you to come upstairs with me and get in my bed."
Storybooks are bullshit. Now I want you to come upstairs with me and get in my bed.
That's all I've got for the Nic List. There's some more stuff though, but those were really the two super hot Nic Cage scenes in Moonstruck for me. So let's jump into the story of Moonstruck.
I'm still just amazed by the casting. I cannot believe there's a movie with Nic Cage, Cher, and Donald Trump. Amazing.
Who's Donald Trump? Is that Danny Aiello? Her fiance?
Yeah, that's Cher's fiance, Nick's brother.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Why? Please, Steve. Why is?
Was that not him?
I
just
felt like
noticed all the mannerisms and the.
Okay.
Actually, it was very much Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump. That's really what it was.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. I can roll with that, Steve. I can roll with that. Yeah. Let's jump into the story of Moonstruck. Cher, the singer, plays down on her luck Loretta Castorini, a bookkeeper from Brooklyn, New York, whose first husband died a few years ago after getting hit by a bus. Her current beau, played by the tremendous Danny Aiello, Donald Trump, rest his soul. He actually died only 6 months ago, I found out. Excellent actor.
We'll trade him Trump
for the new one.
Yeah, we'll resurrect him, but then we'll sacrifice Trump.
Danny Aiello's character proposes to Cher Loretta at a restaurant before flying solo to Sicily to be with his dying mother. Before he leaves, he instructs Loretta to contact his estranged brother and beg him to come to the wedding. Family is family, right? Cage's character, Ronnie Camerari, hangs up on Loretta when she calls, forcing her to seek him out in person. When they meet, the two quickly fall in love with each other in a night of heated passion at Loretta's apartment. In the morning, Loretta regrets the whole thing and wants to move on with her plan to marry Ronnie's brother, Cosmo Castorini. Donald Trump. Danny Aiello. Ronnie is so in love with Loretta, he negotiates with her one night together at the opera, and then he'll never see her again. She reluctantly agrees. In the meantime, Loretta's older family members experience their own personal encounters with love and marriage.
Her father, an unhappy plumber played by actor Vincent Gardenia, is having an affair with Loretta's mother, played by the inimitable Olympia Dukakis, who's amazing in this movie. On the night of the opera, Loretta abruptly runs into her father, also attending the performance with his secret mistress, leading to an awkward scene of shock and surprise at one another's revealed infidelity. In the final penultimate kitchen table scene, Loretta's mother reveals to the father she knows about his mistress and that he needs to stop seeing her. This after having her own question answered about why men chase women. He appears to come to his senses and agrees. Nic Cage appears then to confront his brother, who has returned from Sicily after their mom has miraculously recovered from her grave illness. And he has taken this as a sign that he should no longer marry the unlucky Loretta, who initially is offended by this pronouncement made in front of the entire family, even though she's already decided that she's not going to marry him anyway because she wants to marry Nic Cage. I mean, come on, it's Nic Cage. But anyway, in the end, we are left with a very happy Italian family who now welcome their newest member, Nicolas Cage. That, in a nutshell, is Moonshaker, Moonraker,
Moonchild.
Moonchild, Moon, Racing the Moon Cage, Moonwalker with Michael Jackson, Moonstruck. That's the story. I know I jumped over some of the side plots, so to speak, and what have you, but that is the gist of this romantic comedy.
Romance.
I do want to say this, though. I rented the DVD. Well, I can't say that anymore. Who rents DVDs? I checked the DVD out at the library, and I popped it in the DVD player, and the first thing that came up, you want to guess? You wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't murder your wife. You wouldn't nuke your hometown. Don't pirate Nic Cage movies. I got pirate shamed. It's been a while since I've been pirate shamed.
Nice.
The second shot of the B-roll in the intro credits is of the World Trade Center. What?
No.
But I thought it was kind of interesting. We see the World Trade Center in one of the first shots, the opening shots of this, and also in Vampire's Kiss. Fulfilling, I'm going to get religious here. Please don't be offended. But this is proof that it's one of the 9 prophecies of Cage predicting the film career of St. Nicholas, as well as the upcoming spaghetti rapture of the dead Cage scrolls found in Barbados in 1669. So we are on our way to the Cage apocalypse, and I was just very proud to see that. Something else I noticed. Why the balls does this movie not have an Italian language track? There's
or subtitles for all of the Italian moments.
Sure. But there's English, of course. I think on this DVD there was also Spanish and French. There's no Italian.
Yeah, I knew that. I was just making sure you knew that.
I would argue that this movie is heavily targeted towards Italian Americans, and
yeah,
I think most of them speak English, so
that's true.
I think they're good. They got it.
I still wanted to spin this as racist somehow, because actually I am something of an Italian American. My grandmother, great-grandmother were both Italian, and this movie was kind of nostalgic for me. It reminded me of my childhood being around them. And so I kind of had, I guess, an attraction to that part of the film. So I have to admit, when it comes to the cage fight portion of this podcast, I may be a little biased, but we'll see. But yeah, it struck a special moon with me because of that. I felt like the movie really captured the feel of the Italian family, the Italian food that I
remember. A very realistic portrayal of the homes. I think that's one thing I really liked was the sets. You know, it really looks like it was shot just in these people's homes in Brooklyn. But the way that the camera moves suggests to me that it wasn't, that it had to be sets. I could be wrong. I'm not a film expert, but you know, all of just the pictures on the walls and the religious iconography that you see in Italian homes and the kitchenware was very genuine, and I thought that was cool. Felt realistic. So I really enjoyed the look and feel of this movie. It does seem to have a special magic. Shall we talk about Nicolas Cage and his role as Ronnie? What did you guys think of that?
I honestly thought that he was, at least for me, because I don't have Italian heritage. I'm half Greek, and you know, anyone who knows history knows that the Romans conquered the Greeks, and you know, they raped the Greeks and turned into Italians.
This is going to be a really great fight later.
So I found that part of the movie highly offensive.
Oh, you were offended by it?
Yes. Speaking, you mentioned racism. I found that part of it highly offensive from me and my Spartan brethren.
Do you want to talk about My Big Fat Greek Wedding? There's a couple sequences in there that I think could have been cut out, buddy.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Here's the sub cage fight.
A what fight?
No, but the sub cage fight.
Sub cage fight.
The fight within a fight. No, but in all seriousness, though, I'm not really that big of a fan of romantic comedies in general. So really, for me personally, I thought Cage's performance was kind of, you know, the only thing that really was keeping me engaged personally. But I also felt, you know, like we do get some good Cage in this movie, but it's minimal. The one scene with the grab your knife, that was, to me, I thought the most entertaining scene in the entire movie.
It just goes along with this trend we've seen where it's always one of the first scenes with Nick that you get just something amazing.
We had it right from we had like the almost the blacksmith kind of look to him, where it was just right there from behind with them shoveling things in and trying to look tough.
Yeah, I really hoped to find in the background a fantasy battle axe somewhere.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. He seemed more like a blacksmith or a coal miner or something, or you know.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Connect.
I didn't know baking bread was such a manly profession, but he definitely made it manly. The other thing too is the whole, you know, he accidentally cut part of his hand off, right? He put it in the slicer, and this was when he was gonna get married to some other girl. And it's an important plot point because after he cuts his hand off, his fiancée leaves him. And so at the point when
she doesn't want to be with a cripple.
Right, yeah, some of that stuff in this movie just makes me wonder, like, man, maybe she wasn't meant for you. She's gonna leave you for that. And then plus he's got this really just kind of sinister looking false hand now. It's like
that was a bizarre choice in my opinion.
Well, yeah, what I'm getting at is I honestly believe this was his choice. This was one of his inputs. It's got to be.
Absolutely.
No, if it was his choice, it would have been the Infinity Gauntlet.
Probably.
He was given an option of what was on the table, and he picked the most ridiculous thing.
There we go. Yeah, it wasn't a bad scene. I personally thought that Nic did a good job portraying this character.
In his own way.
In his own, yeah. There are some moments where I feel like he's kind of pushing the limits for me in terms of believability and how men can talk to women specifically. Of course, again, this is an 80s movie. Times were different. Courting, dating was different. Go ahead.
I mean, on the same note, though, there was a lot of there was that side guy, right? The professor dude that hit on her mom.
You want to talk about that scene? Let's talk about that scene.
Well, there's multiple scenes.
Okay.
Right, because you see him throughout the movie. Once very early on with where she sees him and says that girl's too young for him.
Yeah, Cher is in the restaurant towards the beginning of the movie, and sitting behind them is a professor at I think NYU, who is getting he's talking to one of his students actually, and says something crass to her. I don't remember, and she gets upset and dumps water in his face and leaves. So that happens. It's very quick, and then later in the movie, there's another scene where it's Loretta's mom who has gone to eat at that restaurant by herself because she's kind of depressed after the realization that she's being cheated on. And so she's there by herself, and then again this same professor character is with another much younger girl, one of his students, and she gets upset again, a different girl, throws the water on his face and leaves, and then Cher's mother strikes up a conversation with him and invites him to have dinner with her. Yeah, they have something of a discussion and then walk home together. And it's interesting. What did you want to say about that in particular?
Well, it's funny because the general dynamic of your lead characters, right? There's like an 18-year difference between Nic Cage and Cher. And there's like
is it really that much?
Yeah, and then there's like a 30-year difference between him and what's his name, Danny, Johnny, the original fiance. His brother.
Oh, right.
There's 30 years between Nic and his brother.
Is there really?
Yeah,
you're probably
there's
right.
Huge age differences there. So I think that's kind of funny that they make a point of this secondary character to point that out, yet never address it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that's...
So it's almost like this movie was cougar-bait or something. I don't know.
Well, you see that young gentleman right there? I'd love to lick his body. That's my son.
You don't agree?
Well, I think it was an important scene. It was meant to.
Yeah.
It was meant to illustrate like our own limitations and managing our expectations of love. What we think marriage and love should be versus the reality of it. And I thought it was interesting how the professor character, he was, again, turned down by the younger girl, and because this lady has struck up a conversation with him, he then suddenly feels like it's his place to start trying to seduce her.
We could go to my apartment. You can see how the other half lives.
I'm too old for you.
Steve, isn't it time for another word from our sponsor?
I believe so. Do you have the next one?
No, I thought you had a good one.
The U.S. government.
The United States Space Force.
Space Force is sponsoring this. They are about to have their first launch next week. I don't know if we're actually allowed to talk about that. They're not doing anything. Everything's safe. Don't worry about it. No big deal.
But, you know, the numbers are high.
Really high.
The highest.
Astronomically high.
Like nobody's ever counted that high.
Like how high?
Exactly. With Snoop Dogg.
What did I miss? Who did I miss?
We're just introducing our sponsor, Space Force.
Oh, Space Force. Good.
Yeah. Space Force Coast to Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Now streaming on HBO Max.
What did you guys feel about the chemistry between Cher and Cage, their characters?
So ironically enough, Cher was the one that asked for Cage to play the role of Ronnie.
Shut the front door.
The studio heads actually wanted Peter Gallagher to play him.
Interesting. I don't know who that is.
She said Nick could play Crazy better. Or more realistically, sorry.
Huh. See, this was my thinking. I thought that this was a role that came into Uncle Francis's radar.
That's what I would think.
You know,
too.
he's like, Nick, you got to do one of these Italian movies. You know, you got to just do this for your career. Cher's gonna be in it. It's gonna be great. You'll be the James Dean guy again.
No, she fought for Cage. She insisted she would not do the movie without him.
Interesting.
Was that like the first time ever that
that anyone ever wanted him in a movie?
That a co-actress was just like, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, she was old enough that she knew he wouldn't try to go after her. Or at least hope.
That's true. She'd have to be at least like half the age.
Yeah.
I feel good for Cage because this was a important role for his career. It was a successful movie. Roger Ebert liked it. Actually, Cher won an Academy Award for her role in this. I'm not sure if Nick was nominated, but I thought maybe there had been some kind of competition between them. Not that there necessarily had to be, but in my mind I thought it would be interesting if there was, because she had already been nominated at this point for a movie called Mask, I think. I've seen it before. It's really good. She's great in it. And I don't believe he'd been nominated yet for an Academy Award.
He has only been, according to Google, he was nominated for Best Actor.
Was it G-Force?
Yes, for Best Picture. No, in 2003, Adaptation. Yeah, he was nominated in 2003, but he actually won in 1996 for Leaving Las Vegas.
What was he nominated for other than that? Was it just those two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Really? Not even for Face Off or Con Air or The Rock. Damn, son.
Wait, he helped birth The Rock?
Yeah.
He was there that day?
No, he's The Rock's dad.
That explains so much, especially Jumanji.
I'm glad I put Steve on research.
So, Nick, also the acting style that he was channeling during this movie was actually inspired by Fritz Lang's Metropolis.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, this is the weird thing about Nicolas Cage. He and I have super similar interests. Like, what?
Yeah. No, I have more comments on that, but it'll come in the next movie.
I feel like we would be on the same wavelength if we were ever in the same room having a conversation about movies and stuff. It's just, he has an ego, probably, like nothing we've ever seen before.
So I'll just throw it in here now. So as I was watching the next movie, Vampire's Kiss, I sent Reece a text because he sent me a copy of the video, but it had commentary on it.
Yeah.
And I was pissed because it was commentary, but as I started getting into it, I actually, for very much the same reasons, I actually really started liking it because it was honestly like sitting there talking with you about the movie, just listening to the way Cage talks about it and the way that the director just ripped on him throughout the whole movie.
Really?
Really.
I've got to listen to this.
It was pretty fantastic. He just kept like making jabs at it. It was like 30 minutes into the movie. It was like, I text you about 20 minutes in because I was like, I'll just deal with it. I was trying to mess around with it. And I text you, and then like a few minutes later, he's just and Nick's just like, I don't know, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. Oh man,
just
that's great.
Just like defeated sound to his voice.
Yeah, that's
So
funny.
It was, yeah.
You know, as much as an ego Cage has, I've heard that in more recent years, he's actually gotten a lot more sensitive about people making jokes about him.
Oh no,
and
the Chuck Norris.
And supposedly his agent is like especially protective of him.
Yeah, he's an amazing actor. He's got, I mean, one of the most diverse repertoire. What am I trying to say? If you add up all of the roles he's played, what other actor has played as many just various roles in such a way? That's why we love Nic Cage. I mean,
Cuba Gooding Jr. is the only other one.
Don't make me watch all his movies too, Shawn. I already agreed to doing this. I can't keep doing these things for you.
We're doing it for you, Kevin.
It is for you, Kevin.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Miss you.
Moonstruck. Anything else you guys want to add? Anything else you liked? Before we jump to Vampire's Kiss, a very different movie. No? What about... Yes, Shawn.
I may be misremembering it, and this was because I didn't get a chance to rewatch Moonstruck again before doing this podcast. But wasn't there some scene where they were arguing in like a basement or something? I could have sworn I remembered a good like Cage out moment.
Arguing in a basement. I hope you're not
Just
thinking
the original bread spin.
Yeah, just the bread scene when she goes in the basement to meet him for the first time.
I might be thinking of another movie.
There's a very important basement scene in Vampire's Kiss that we're going to talk about.
Oh, yes, we will.
Yeah, let's see. The only other really big Cage out, what am I trying to say, conflict scene, I think, is the one where they're outside his apartment and he has that line about snowflakes and love isn't what you think love is. It's not a storybook kind of love, and, you know, all that lovey-dovey talk. I don't really think he sold it that well, but it wasn't terrible. I did look through Roger Ebert's review that he had written, and he actually thought that Cage was great and deserved to be nominated for an Academy Award. I don't quite agree, but I don't see a reason to really heavily criticize his performance in the movie. And like you said, Shawn, he's really not in it that much. And but he was the draw for you. Now, for me, I really liked all of the other scenes. I liked seeing the exchanges between the family members and their relationships and their stories. I thought were interesting and relatable to most people, and kind of romantic in a mature way, and slightly funny in how it all turns out in the end, because it's quirky, you know, how they're all having affairs and trying to hide them, but, you know, family, they figure everything out about everyone, and in the end all is revealed. I did kind of feel like it was a bit of a letdown when the brother comes home and says he no longer wants to marry her because she's bad luck, right? Is that really the reason? She's bad luck, and so he thinks that he shouldn't marry her in order for his mom to live, right?
Honestly, in reality, the movie itself is kind of confusing and felt sort of rushed, even for a romantic comedy to me. It just seemed like there wasn't a good escalation, climax, back down. Everything just kind of ended abruptly.
Yeah, it felt like it was leading up to a really powerful kind of climactic scene. And
that just never came.
Yeah, it never came, or they didn't want it to come because they wanted it to be more, they wanted to keep that lighthearted romantic tone, maybe. Yeah, it did seem to have an abrupt kind of neat and tidy ending. But, you know, whatever. It works. I thought Cher was great.
Wasn't the climax the kitchen scene?
That's what we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
The whole family in the kitchen.
Yeah. Eating spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
got a love bite on your neck. He's coming back this morning. What's the matter with you? Your life's going down the toilet. Cover up that damn thing. Come on, put some makeup on it. All right. Oh, okay, fine.
I'm disappointed that there wasn't a Bob Hoskins cameo to reprise his favorite role from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
I know. Yeah. Because Cher's dad was a plumber already. He had to know the Mario Bros.
Same universe.
Last thing I want to say about Moonstruck is mention the moon. The moon plays an important role in the movie itself. One of the family friends, I don't remember if he's an uncle, family friend, guy who works at the store. He recounts this story of a time when before Cher's dad married Cher's mom, the moon was big and bright and beautiful and full, and underneath it was Cher's dad standing outside of her window singing to her or something like that. Some connection with the moon, and he'd never seen the moon that big ever since, until another scene where he does see it as big and gets super turned on and has sex with his wife. Very romantic.
Like in that scene in Bruce Almighty.
Another. Yeah.
Hi. Wow. Never seen the moon that big.
We really shouldn't waste it.
Yeah. That's why it's called Moonstruck, everybody. If the moon is big... If the moon is big, white, and beautiful, it's time to make love.
I thought you were going to say something else is big and white and beautiful.
Yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that. I didn't want to go too far. I think I already did. But
yeah.
If you like Moonstruck, though, see Moonchild. Great Hong Kong-esque action flick. Go see. It's got vampires. It's also about family. Got some Matrix shit in it. Check it out.
Or Moonraper by Ben Affleck.
Or just The Moon by NASA.
Oh, dude, I love that one. I go outside and sometimes it's projected into the sky. I don't know where the projector is, but man, it looks so good. And I'll just watch it and see if they put something else on the projector.
It's the fucking birds.
Moon landing, best CG. Should have won the Academy Award.
Yeah, still I watched that and I'm impressed at how they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was that technology back then?
I think it was in Maya. They used Maya for that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Not Mayan people. You mean the Maya software?
Yes.
No, the Mayan race. The fact that they disappeared is just hoax.
Right. Convenient and inconvenient truth.
Yeah, Illuminati.
Yeah.
That's what that one Mel Gibson movie's about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Apocalyptoid?
Yeah. About the making of the moon landing.
That's a good one. Yeah. My kids wanted to watch Pocahontas one night, and I said, nah, let's watch the real thing. And we watched Apocalypto, and I now get to see them once a month. Moonstruck, everybody. Great film. Before we jump into Vampire's Kiss, Shawn recently checked out the extras, the deleted scenes from Color Out of Space. Was there anything there to highlight?
There were a couple things. As I've said, I did purchase the Color Out of Space Blu-ray,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Support your local Blockbuster.
Yes.
Moonstruck is also $4.99 right now on iTunes. Get it now. They're not paying me to say that. Back to you, Shawn.
Yes. One thing that I can confirm, as Steve said, we do get a Cage handstand.
I've got to see it.
I need to see it too.
Is it worth it?
So,
I guess not.
Eh.
So basically, there's a reason it's a deleted scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
it's not that great. So it's called Nathan Starts to Act Strange, and it's a scene where they're all in the bedroom upstairs, and the whole family's there, and he starts, kind of talking a little atypically. It's not a full Cage out yet.
Okay.
But he starts doing jumping jacks, and then, while he's talking, he tries to do a handstand against the wall for reasons, and that's pretty much it. It wasn't an actual speech, really, but I think actually the best deleted scene was probably without Cage.
Impossible.
I was kind of surprised, but Jonah Hill's back. He's taken the alpacas for a walk. He's smoking some of that. Some of those reggae cigarettes
from the neighbor.
Yeah, and he's just kind of talking to the alpacas and starts talking about like purple dragons or something, and
I would have kept that in.
Yeah, that was solid. Yeah, there was a somewhat entertaining scene with Tommy Chong talking to the hydrologist. I wouldn't say that it was funny. It was, I don't know. He was good. He did his thing. And honestly, all the other scenes were kind of forgettable. I mean, there's really only about, I think, like 15 minutes of deleted scenes, so you're not really missing much, but...
Yeah. For me, it's always a gamble when I check out deleted scenes for movies. One example I have for you is Ridley Scott, who I love dearly, his movies. But Gladiator, I remember I was so pumped to watch the extended director's cut of Gladiator with however many minutes added back in, 40 plus minutes, I want to say. And then I watched that for the first time, and I just remember seeing all of these scenes and thinking to myself, yeah, that could have been cut. Yeah, sorry, that should have been cut. But then he's got that other movie, Kingdom of Heaven, which I didn't think was that great, but he released a director's cut of that, which it improves the movie significantly. So that's just one example I have for you guys. But thank you for watching.
Ridley Scott. I really liked him in Metroid.
Did you?
Yeah. I thought it was cool that he convinced Miyamoto to let Russell Crowe do the mocap for Kraid.
Yeah. That was a big passion pineapple project. I only have one complaint about Ridley Scott, a very serious accusation, and I don't want to get sued, but from what I see, he's never worked with Nicolas Cage directly in any film, and that cannot be allowed in Hollywood. Working in film this long, how long has Nic Cage been making movies, right? It's kind of, and Ridley Scott's got some great movies. I don't want people to think that, I'm talking all big, because I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not, but Vampire's Kiss?
Vampire's Kiss.
What a film.
Where do we start?
Whew.
He was an ordinary guy.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Looking for an extraordinary love.
I'm Peter Lev.
Rachel.
I brought this girl up to my place the other night.
It started with a kiss.
Really hot.
A very special kiss.
You wanted her very badly.
Yeah.
A kiss that could drive you mad.
I hate interrupted love affairs, don't you?
Yeah.
Bring me the big knife. I'm gonna cut my throat.
It's affecting his work.
There you are.
It's a horrible, horrible job. And you have to do it.
It's ruining his appetite.
My next appointment with you is Tuesday afternoon.
I'd like to make it sooner.
It's spoiling his sleep.
Fuck you.
Fuck off!
And don't think people haven't noticed.
Am I getting through to you? Over!
He is so eccentric.
For Peter Lowe, that's just love.
Love.
In the big city.
Don't laugh.
I'm a professional. I don't lie.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! Fuck you! Fuck
Nicolas Cage.
The tortures of the damned!
Maria Conchita Alonso.
Shoot. Do it or I'll fire you. Do you understand? Not the floor, Alva.
And Jennifer Beals.
You are so pathetic.
Vampire's Kiss.
Strange stuff. I'll never do that again. Jeez.
Vampire's Kiss is pure Cage uncaged. It is the unleashing of the cage.
I would argue that this movie is essentially if you took like The Room and just made Nicolas Cage the main actor and added vampires.
You know, it really has a Room feel to it.
It's so bizarre. I love it.
I really want to know, Steve, you've listened to the commentary, so you have more insight into this. One of his first lines in the movie is about the Fantastic Four. He's talking to his girlfriend he's taking home, and they're talking about comic books. And I'm like, did Nic Cage write this too? Was he allowed to just ad-lib the whole time? Because you know that's him.
He talked about Galactus in Mandy too.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is that when Marvel Studios does the Fantastic Four reboot in a few years, if Cage does not make some kind of appearance, like even if it's a villain or whatever, because I mean he has proven that he can do the superhero thing. I mean he did a very good job in Kick-Ass, I would argue.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I could see that happening.
It would be a travesty if he's not in it.
He clearly is very passionate about the Fantastic Four.
I know. Well, and you know he had a huge comic book collection. Millions of dollars worth of comic books.
Did not know that.
Oh, you didn't? And it was stolen from him at one point. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Someone stole his comic books worth millions of dollars, and he had to hunt them down, and I think he eventually did. And then I think he had to sell them anyway because he was in debt. Anyway, Vampire's Kiss, 1988, 1989, somewhere around then. It's time for the Nic List. And it's going to be a long one, so buckle your seatbelts. Nicolas Cage brings girl home from the bar. They are both attacked by a wild bat. Nic Cage shoos away the bat and later tells his therapist the bat turned him on. Pro tip, when Nicolas Cage asks you to find his files, you find his files, damn it!
Am I getting through to you? Over!
Nicolas Cage brings new girl home from the bar. Oops, she's a vampire, and she bites. Nicolas Cage, in another scene with Dr. Glazer, tells her that no, he was actually already horny when he saw the bat and drunk too. It was no big deal. Nicolas Cage loses it over a pink napkin left at his apartment with the words, "Stay out of my life," after ditching his girlfriend not once, but twice. And I mean loses it. Cue epic scene of Nic Cage smashing stuff. Nicolas Cage starts wearing sunglasses to work because he's turning into a vampire. Nicolas Cage collapses when walking beneath a neon cross because he's turning into a vampire.
Nicolas Cage finds a cockroach in his apartment and he eats it. Why? Because that's what vampires do. When office secretary / punching bag Alva finally finds the contract Cage has been looking for, I'm sorry, it's too late. As a thank you for finding the missing contract, Nicolas Cage chases Alva into the basement and commands her to shoot him. If she refuses, he will rape her. Nicolas Cage tries to blow his own brains out, but he can't because Alva filled the chamber with blanks. I mean, no, because he's a vampire. Nicolas Cage flips over his couch to use it as a coffin and chews on a pillow because his teeth hurt because he's a vampire. Nicolas Cage buys cheap plastic vampire teeth because he wants to see what he'll look like as a vampire. Nic Cage abducts a pigeon, takes it home, and eats it because he's a vampire and that's what vampires do. Nic Cage murders a lady at a rockin' 80s dance club by chewing her neck off because he's a vampire. Nic Cage breaks off a wooden stake from a discarded pallet and asks strangers to kill him with it.
I'm a vampire. Kill me. Kill me.
Nic Cage finally receives his wish when Alva's brother breaks into his apartment and impales Nicolas Cage with the wooden stake in revenge for attempting to rape his sister. Vampire's Kiss, 1989.
That's like the whole movie right there.
Man. I have a theory. About this movie, all right? The extras in the movie, they are super special. When you watch this movie, watch the people in the background. I have a theory that some of them, they weren't extras at all. They were just people fucking walking around New York City. And then the camera.
You're not wrong.
Are you serious?
You're not wrong. So there are two layers to the extras, right? In one case, because they had a very low budget, some of them are actually people that work for them, from their producers to people that were out there on set. But then the others, for instance, a scene very near the end when he's walking with the stake down the road, down the street.
Yeah.
Remember the black guy that like jumps out of his, or the two people that jump out of the way? They are legit hobos. They're filming with a long distance lens and nobody knows, and Nick's just walking around New York and the hobos are terrified of him.
Do they know that they are entitled to a check? My God. Well, there's a scene when Nic Cage angrily marches out of the diner with his wound from, either cutting his neck, shaving, or the vampire bit him. And there's an old guy walking in who's like, "Are you all right?" And I'm just like, that guy wasn't acting. That's just a dude.
No, so there are a lot of like little moments like that the director purposely put in there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like little one-line characters that are just supposed to give some interesting element to question the psychosis.
Yeah. Yeah. The best one for me is when Nic Cage chases Alva, the secretary, into the women's bathroom. And there's an old.
Nick even said that.
There's an old lady in there.
He's like, I love that woman.
She's like, "What the hell is going on here? What the fuck is going on?" I swear to God. Then she looks right at the camera and leaves.
Yeah.
It kind of scared me. It's like, she's not an actress.
Yeah.
That's a real old lady in the bathroom. And then the weird ones were, you remember the mimes outside his apartment? This is, I guess, when they're just adding weird stuff, surreal, artsy imagery. What did they say about that?
He even commented on it because I don't know what I was thinking at that moment. Because I don't know, I'm thinking like there's a lot of street art going on, and this is,
This whole movie is it's an acid trip of a movie, and it's kind of meta in that sense as well. In that there's a part where Nic Cage says that his character
His character's name's Mr. Lowe. Peter. How could I forget? Peter? You've come to see me again, Peter. I'm your therapist. Peter works for some publishing company. There's really, it's such a simple movie, really. He's some kind of executive for a publishing company. He likes to, well, first of all, he talks with this crazy, whacked out accent I've never heard before. He likes to go out and party. He's single. And it kind of like, when you watch the movie, it starts right off. It hits the ground running. He brings this girl home from the bar, and while they're in his apartment, this bat flies in, and you get this comical scene of him trying to fight the bat off. He seems to, yeah, I'm sorry, I did say that. Shoo the bat off, away. Is unable to, so then they leave, and you just, I guess the bat, right, is still in the apartment. And then when he comes back later, the bat has seemingly transformed into this beautiful vampiress, seductress, who bites into his neck, and it's too late for him at that point, so he's just like, okay, just bite my neck. I like it now. I don't know if I'm gonna die or turn into a vampire or what. But then in the morning, man, he doesn't even have a wound. It's like, was this a dream? I don't know. But he cuts himself shaving, so now all of a sudden he has a wound there where a vampire bite could be. And then the rest of this movie is just descending into this kind of acid trip, this psychological kind of experiment where you don't know what's real, what's not, if he's going crazy, if there's really a vampire, until you're just like, okay, this whole thing is just a ridiculous, campy comedy. That maybe it doesn't even matter. I mean, should I continue with what happens? I've already mentioned all of the things that that makes him think he's a vampire. Pretty much. There's a part where he sees he's looking at himself in the mirror, and we see his reflection, but apparently he can't see his own reflection. So, I'm a vampire. I'm a vampire. And he just plays this role with such a wild ferocity. And then the other crazy part about it is the whole story, the whole plot with the secretary who's just trying to do her job. He asks her to find a file, a contract, and it's kind of an ambitious project because she has to go through, I don't know, a dozen file folders to find this contract. And he just gets more and more pissed off about it and abuses her more and more.
Truly, what we're supposed to understand from this movie is that everything that happens is entirely her fault.
Right.
No, it was funny kind of listening because evidently there was feedback from like the initial viewings of this that everybody loved how abusive he was to her. Yeah,
I think I read that too.
Yeah,
they just thought it was so hilarious. This nice lady.
Because like these things happen, and so mind you, the commentary track that I actually listened to, it was like 11 years after the movie, right? They were going back and we were watching it together. It was just the director and Nick. And yeah, that's a lot of what they're talking about. They're like, rape thing. I mean, we don't want to over dramatize it, but we want to make sure that it's real there. That way we don't let it go.
Yeah, and man, it's an uncomfortable scene when he's got her in the basement and she has the gun out and she looks terrified. I mean, she's really acting. It's not like an airplane kind of, you know what I mean? That kind of comedy. It's a black comedy where characters act like it's reality. So you're really seeing a woman who's terrified for her life with holding a gun, clutching it, and she says, "Are you gonna rape me?" And he says, "I'm gonna rape you." Ah. And then it's like, okay, that is scary. That's uncomfortable. But all right, what's going to happen next? Maybe it's not going to cross the line and you kind of feel like, all right, well, we're cool now. It's not going to be that uncomfortable. Then he tears off her shirt, her blouse. It's like, okay, what's going on? And then they kind of treat it like she actually was raped, right? She tells her brother that she was.
Yeah, I mean...
And then he admits to the therapist, he says that, oh yeah, I raped a woman 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Like, oh. I'm glad that we didn't see the whole thing then, or maybe he just means maybe that assault, that sexual assault, is being considered as rape. I don't know, but
This is unclear.
Probably the reason why this isn't in the Criterion collection, right there.
Yeah. So evidently, whenever he went to take this movie, his agent tried to talk him out of it. Said that this is just nuts and he shouldn't do it, and so he actually backed out of it.
Okay.
And so they tried to replace him, I think, with Judd Nelson.
All right.
Who, I don't know, couldn't do it, backed out as well, something along those lines. But Nick ended up just saying, no, I'm going to do it. So he called back and took the role, obviously.
Right. See, I thought in the end what would happen is Nic Cage's character would die. That was obvious to me. And then all of a sudden we would find out that Alva was pregnant. And then she would give birth to a baby bat.
I just love how Cage antagonizing her throughout the whole movie, and there's the scene where the client, who throughout the whole thing, he's like, yeah, if we don't find this file, then the client's gonna go to another firm, and the client basically calls just like, yeah, you know, I just wanted to follow up on that file, you know, no big rush, and you know, and it was a long time ago. I know how long that's gonna take. You know, whenever you get around to it. It's like, see, do you hear that in his voice?
Yeah.
He's definitely going to another agency. Gotta find it.
Yeah, it really, you started to question his sanity after that. Like, oh, he just really hates her. Or how about the fact that she's had enough, so she stays home sick the next day. Sick, with a cold. What does Nic Cage, her boss, do? He finds her address in the Rolodex and drives to her house and says, hey, I know you're sick, but I know you're really angry with me. And I just wanted to let you know that it's not a big deal. I just want you to come back to work, and I want to make things right. So will you please get dressed? I know that you're kind of like half naked now when I'm talking to you again. This is actually before the big sequence, but anyway, she's half naked, and he says, just get dressed and come with me back to work, and I promise I'll make things right. Okay. And she gets in the taxi, and they start driving away, and then he's like, you're gonna find my fucking files. Yeah. And you're gonna do it now.
You could just see her face just go from like, oh, okay, to just horror. Because now she was in a taxi with this man, and
right, yeah, there's no escape, yeah. And that's also the part where her brother comes into it, because she has the taxi pull over so that she can... What did she have to get? She had an excuse to stop there to pick something up. Or talk to her brother about something. Yeah, I just want to talk to my brother at the car shop. And she goes in and just asks for the gun. Yeah, at that point, you know, it hasn't been super bad yet. But that's what...
Clearly, that's why she needs a gun.
Yeah. Oh, and then we find out that... she's asking for bullets for the gun. That's what it is. She has the gun without bullets. And her brother says, well, all I have are blanks. And she says, just give me the blanks then. So there's a part where she shoots Nic Cage with the blank. And Nick, of course, is unharmed by the blank. So he assumes that it's because he has vampire powers.
I mean, who wouldn't think that? I mean,
the guy who played...
What?
The guy who played the Crow? They were supposed to be blanks, right?
Yeah.
Misfired. Brandon Lee. Yeah.
Well, great. Todd just signed off.
Oh, just a joke. I love The Crow, even though Nic Cage wasn't in it. Should have been.
Fire it up! Fire it up!
What's the chance that she's actually Nic Cage's real life assistant? And this was just B-roll of just their everyday interactions. In fact, do we know definitively that to make this movie that they didn't just tell Cage that he got the role of Edward Cullen in Twilight and just followed him around with the camera crew for like a month?
Yeah.
Again, that's what they did with a lot of it. A lot of this stuff was Nic Cage improv. So, a few interesting points that I came across. The vampire girl, the one that played the vampire, she was actually hired the day before they started shooting.
Okay.
And the director had a nightmare that night before going in that Nick would be displeased with the girl that he hired for the vampire and pulled out 2 needles and stabbed them into his eyes.
Into the director's eyes?
Yeah, this was the nightmare the director had the night before. That when he told Nick that he had hired this actress to play this role, that Nick pulled out needles and stabbed him in the eye.
Oh.
That would have made a great scene.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, a dream and totally not a threat. I like that. She better be hot. Or you're gonna get the needles.
You know, I noticed that a lot of like the Nic Cage memes that you see online were from this movie. Like just the static screenshots of just him making weird faces.
Yeah, I mean he's got the expressions going in this movie for sure. The crazy eyes. Gosh, and he just looks so ridiculous with those fake vampire teeth.
Oh, that scene. So that scene, he goes into the shop and the shopkeepers is just like, yeah, we have these, we just got these in. They're made from what is it, like acrylic, and they're really lifelike. And he's just like, oh, how much are those?
Yeah, he's got these fake teeth. He wears them everywhere. He goes to the club wearing the teeth.
Well, he buys the $3 the $3 ones because he's just like, oh, I can't afford those.
Yeah, he's like, it's not 2020. I don't have a credit card. American Express. He had like $4, $5 in his wallet.
Yeah, I don't even think they were that expensive. Weren't they like $40 or?
Yeah, it was $3.50 or something like that.
Well, for the good ones.
Oh, I think they were $20. Yeah, right?
So he gets like the 25-cent.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
He didn't have any money.
Like, what the role I thought of when I was watching this was Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. The method acting, making your own decisions on the fly as the character. It would be really cool to see a Joaquin Phoenix, Nic Cage, vampire versus Joker kind of universe harassing Gotham.
I think that if they ever make the adaptation of Batman versus Dracula, I think we know who has to play Dracula.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and there was Easter egg. They showed Nosferatu on the TV. They had some vampire nods in there. But when you mentioned the room, it was obviously written and shot to be a specific kind of movie, which it ended up not becoming, right? With this one, I'm not sure. I get the sense that the screenwriter had a very specific vision in writing it, and the final product wasn't exactly what was intended, but fairly close. I think it was meant to be a black comedy, but maybe a little smarter or more. I don't know. There's something off with Nick's performance and how it all came together. Like, I feel like there were a lot of problems in making this movie that really affected the final product. Steve might have more input on that, but do you know what I mean? Like finding the actress the day before shooting She's like one of the most important characters. She's the vampire in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I noticed that in the neck biting scenes where she's topless, she has some kind of pasty on to prevent her breasts from being fully exposed. So that must have probably in the contract. But I only thought that was interesting because the other actress, girlfriend number 1, was fully naked.
Mm-hmm.
So it just tells me that there were some like interesting last minute details still being hashed out while they were filming this.
Well, there was a lot of improv. There was a lot of improv in this too. Yeah. A lot of things that were brought together from Nic's own personal experience. He mentioned that a lot of his acting, a lot of the way he did things, was inspired by an unnamed family member. So he's not going to say any names, but
Uncle Francis.
Member.
Yep. Now his whole family is looking at themselves like
his whole Alma, am I getting through to you?
Yeah.
That was actually inspired by an old coach of his in high school that would do the same thing to him whenever he would just blow him off.
Wow.
The infamous cockroach scene. So there was some good banter there, right? So the whole Nic ate a cockroach thing, right?
Yeah. Don't tell me he really ate one.
So this started on the day before the way this movie was shot. Actually, the scenes just before the rape scene were some of the very first scenes shot in the movie.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and the rape scene itself, the director kept everyone up overnight so that they would just be strung out and extra crazy in the middle of the night.
Okay.
It needs a little help every now and again. But the note, right, that you talked about earlier, the note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was Nic was really uncooperative filming that scene. Wouldn't get in the lighting. The director was really annoyed with him.
You mean the cage out scene?
No, just before, like when he's reading the note and
yeah.
He was very uncooperative. And as the director asked him, and even during the commentary, I had to make note of this and quote it. Nic's like, well, I mean, what did I do? Well, nothing. That was the problem. You wouldn't do anything I told you to do. I told you to move over here. He said, no, it's got to be right here.
Oh my gosh. I've got to listen to this.
So the following day is when they filmed the cockroach scene. And Nic did actually eat the cockroach.
Shut up.
And they got everything they needed in one take. But as revenge, the director made him take a second take.
Oh, man. Vampire's kiss.
Nic even said the cockroach thing was all a business decision for him.
Okay.
He was trying to one up somebody.
You John Travolta?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You kind of revealed something to me, Steve.
What's that?
The idea that Nicolas Cage mocks people he doesn't like by incorporating their mannerisms into his movies.
Yeah.
So that's something to be aware of. I mean, if an actor is willing to do that, that's the next level grudge holding. Mm-hmm. All right, well, we gotta wrap this up. Vampire's Kiss. Everybody has got to see it. Every man, woman, and child needs to see it at least once. It's excellent. Every Nic Cage fan should see it at least once a year. Are we ready to have our proverbial cage fight now, or is there anything else you want to add about Vampire's Kiss?
Now streaming on Amazon Prime.
Thank you.
Forever.
And I would highly recommend the commentary as a second walkthrough or second watch through.
Yeah. Yeah. You sold me on the commentary, Steve.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I had seen this once before years and years ago, so it was kind of I couldn't remember specific dialogue, but I remember the general basis of the movie.
Well, I'll go first then in my vote for the cage fight winner between Moonstruck and Vampire's Kiss. I have to be honest. I had already seen Vampire's Kiss. I knew that Moonstruck would definitely... It would be hard for it to beat Vampire's Kiss, for me. Vampire's Kiss is one of the movies that I think inspired us to do the podcast in the first place.
Yeah.
So really, it would have to be very, very, very good. And surprisingly, it was. It was a lot better of a movie than I thought it was going to be. The whole Italian American part of it was interesting to me and drew me in. I thought Cher was a lot better. Her character was more interesting than I expected. I liked how down to earth she was. It wasn't one of those sappy kind of romances. It was actually kind of dark in tone at times. They talk a lot about death in it. And I just liked how different it was for a romantic comedy. Nic's character, of course, as I said, kind of towed the line for me. I think he did a great job, but there were moments that were a little too cagey. I don't know if that's possible, but just kind of, I felt overall hurt that movie. And then Vampire's Kiss, just, it's all uncaged Cage. It's just an amazing work of art. You can watch it seriously and get something out of it. You can watch it as a joke and to get something out of it. It's for the whole family. It's all about family. And unfortunately for Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, I'm going to have to say Vampire's Kiss is the winner. Vampire's Kiss?
So for me, Moonstruck, Moonwalker, Moon. It was basically just the Cotton Club in color.
I would like to vote to have Steve kicked out of a late night cage fight. Did you really just say that?
Nic's character just, I don't know. He felt out of place. He felt
You just
not Cage. He just felt like not Cage.
You felt like he was too restricted with that role?
Yeah, he had like really the one good scene, with the give me the knife, and that aside from that, it was like
a tease.
You put that in so early in the movie, and you've got to build somewhere from there, and there was no building.
I agree
After that,
with that.
His character was just very drawn and uninteresting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I said before too, I thought that his character kind of hurt the movie a little bit, but it was fine with me. I give it a pass.
Yeah. The movie overall, I think, was pretty good, but I don't really feel like he grew.
Yeah, but critics disagree. Critics think that was one of his best roles. So I wonder what they then thought about Vampire's Kiss right after that.
Right. Everyone tells him he shouldn't do the insanity roles, but he also does. I mean, everyone agrees he does insanity almost better than anyone else.
Right. Better than insane people.
Yeah. No.
Okay, so Vampire's Kiss for you. Shawn?
I echo a lot of what Steve said. While I do think that Moonstruck is technically a better film, I myself I'm just not a romantic comedy guy. I feel like we're clearly not the target demographic for this movie, and I mean, people are going into it for Cher. They're not going into it for Cage. And, as Steve said, we get the one scene with Give Me the Knife. We have kind of the quirky thing where they had him have one hand for reasons. But for the sake of this podcast, I honestly think it would be wrong not to give it to Vampire's Kiss. I think it just has to be.
You know what I just realized? He had that injury just like the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera has that
injured face. Right?
That's true.
That's got to be where that came from, the idea for that character. He's like the Phantom.
Phantom Pain of the Opera.
Yeah. Very good observations. I'm a bit sad we couldn't do battle. I feel like we are eventually going to be doing some battle, though. Because it's going to be hard with... So far we've got Raising Arizona versus Vampire's Kiss. So, yeah, we're leading up to a pretty good battle, I think.
What's our next one?
But I believe our next ones are...
Oh, yeah, I guess...
Time to Kill and...
Time to Kill and Wild at Heart?
Well, we got to really look at that because I have a movie on here after Vampire's Kiss called Never on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It says he's uncredited in that one, though.
Okay, if he's not credited, we can skip it. That's fine.
Yeah.
If it's a TV movie or an uncredited role, we're not going to count it because it's like, why wouldn't you credit Nic Cage?
Yeah, I mean, he must not have that big of a part anyway, so...
Yeah, so, all right. Vampire's Kiss, the winner. I think we all kind of predicted it. I was still pleased with Moonstruck. Yeah. And, yeah, thank you all for joining us for this edition of Late Night Cage Fight. Thanks for listening. And stay tuned for our next Cage Fight, and hopefully in the near future, some nice Cage Fight surprises from us Cage Fighters. We might have some special episodes and more coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks, guys. And as always...
We're on Twitter now. Follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Late Night Cage Fight. Thanks for joining me. We're out.